Benny, thank you very much for joining us. It's a great pleasure having you here, and I'd love to learn a little more about some of the insights from the book, but also what you've been up to. So if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about yourself and what you're working on.
Thanks, Costa. It's great to be here. And look, a bit about myself. I'm a developmentalist. I guess you could place me in the field of leadership and organizational development with an emphasis around coaching and consulting in this field. I've been there for about 12 years now, and gosh, it's more of a calling than simply a vocation. It's really something that I've dedicated the last 12 years to, and plan on dedicating the rest of my life to in some shape or form. So, recently I've just been working with my clients, helping them develop and grow, helping their teams develop and grow. I've published this book, which you're aware of, and I've been fortunate enough to be on a whole bunch of podcasts and radio shows and that kind of thing, getting the message of transformational leadership out there.
Cool. Let's dive into the ideas. So just to get started, why did you write this book, and why is it particularly relevant now?
The reason I wrote the book is I was asked to, and in the space of about a week, I was approached by a handful of clients that had been running one of our organizational development, our leadership development programs with their teams and with their staff. And it was just one of those weeks. People kept saying, "Hey Benny, it'd be great if you put all of these ideas and all of these sessions that you're doing with us into one place so we could have access to it. Please write a book." And I'm of the belief that if enough people ask you to write a book or start a business for that matter, you should probably take heed. And that's where it came about. It was that, and then one particular friend said, "Oh, you got to do it." He just sort of pushed me over the edge there, and that's how it began. I guess I needed to take my own medicine as well. So much of my work has borrowed and stood on the shoulders of giants, and taking all of this great thinking throughout the ages, and re-educating people into using this stuff in a pragmatic, practical way in their working environments. I guess I wanted, selfishly, a resource that was a go-to resource that had all of these core ideas in one place, and that could be easily digestible and easily applied to the day-to-day workings of a company. So I needed to scratch my own itch, so to speak, as they say.
Let's dig a little bit on the big idea behind the book. What would you say that is?
The big idea is a model. It's a model of systems thinking. I call it an operating system, but it's essentially it's a mental model that allows a leader to be able to think in systems with much more ease and simplicity, and, dare I say, grace. So the central idea of this book is the Transformational Leadership Compass, and what this is a tool and a system and a taxonomy to teach systems leadership, systems thinking to emerging leaders and their teams, so they can walk on the same path towards creating a big change, a better future, a realized vision. So that's the big idea. It's a system. It's a system that borrows from and references respectfully a lot of existing models, systems of management, from 4 disciplines of execution to Scrum to transformational leadership, of course, servant leadership, growth mindsets, over 200 different models and methods that I've used over the years with my clients, integrated into one place, integrated into one model, where everything has a place or a compartment mentally, which makes it easy to integrate into someone's knowledge networks. It makes it much more teachable, it makes it accessible, it makes it memorable to the reader. So that's the big idea. Use the compass to upgrade your thinking, upgrade your mental models, and to be able to affect change in the world around you, with yourself and through your team and through your company.
So with by learning about this compass and the system, what kind of changes are we talking about? What can you do within your organization? And is it applicable across organizations or for startups, or is it for large organizations?
Okay, so the first question in that two-part series is what kind of change can we expect? Well, the way that the system's designed, it's essentially anything you want to change. Now, this could be a very large, deep systemic change, such as shifting the culture of a older enterprise. So it has the components in the dynamic system to be able to do something like shifting deep assumptions that are held by a group of people. That's a very big change. It can also be used for bringing in a new CRM, or which sounds simple, but anyone that's done that within a team, has come up against all sorts of resistance. It can be used to bring in a new skill set or a new member to the team. So it can be from a very large cultural deep change. I've used it for business operating model changes, so entire step changes to how business is done, but also something very simple like a different system in the business, a different team that you're bringing on board. All of the principles apply, whether it's mass scale on a longer timeline or a very quick iteration of change. These are things that need to be considered, and I think that that's unique to this model. So part two, who's it applicable for? Again, this is a matter of scope. So this could be used for very large organizations. Of course, it could be used for massive corporations that are trying to align and direct teams of teams, often in all different parts of the world with very complex goals and sets of interrelated goals. Yes, it can be used for that, but it can also be used for a small startup. I mean, some of my clients have got 5 staff, and they use this model to set their principles and what they're about, their true north, to build games of management they can play and win and improve in, to develop their people. So, the risk of sounding like it's everything for everybody, it's certainly something that works well and has been proven to work well for businesses of all sizes.
Could you share maybe 1 or 2 examples of how the system works in practice?
Let's say you're running a company and you have a quarterly offsite where you go offsite, you do the planning. It's not unusual, most companies do that kind of thing. They get their senior leaders together and they get into a beach house or a conference room or a golf club or something like that, and they put their heads together and they go, well, what's the next quarter going to look like, and to varying degrees of success. So a practical example of this is you would use the transformational leadership to first of all set a North Star, and a North Star is a vision, mission, values, big goals and standards system. It's a direction, it's a guiding point of where everything else is going to lead to. And you would do this by involving as many people in the company as possible and really doing your research. But the idea is to clearly communicate. And some companies do this already really well, but a lot don't. It sort of remains a boardroom or an MBA exercise that never gets past the offsite, that most people on the front line don't have a clue about. But you create this. You create a North Star with the input and with the involvement of as many people as possible. That's the starting point. So what would you say our mission is? What is our core values? Who are we really? What are our aspirational values? Who would we like to be? And defining and declaring that through the company often and regularly. So that's the first point. So doing this even before this offsite occurs, or maybe you form it and publish it and complete it at the offsite. That's the first part. Getting this direction in place. Like where is it we're going, and is this memorable and held in the hearts and minds of our people, not just our executive leadership team that saw it was a good idea in HBR. Like, is this something we're really doing? And that takes work. That takes work and it takes inquiry. One point I'll make around that is just by involving your people at every level in the business, just by asking them, to contribute to this, to share a thought or an idea, they're already starting to be on this journey. So that's one point. So now you have some direction that's hopefully, if you've done the exercise right, shared by the people all through the business, not just the leaders that sit at the top that actually really have direct interaction with the people that pay the bills, the customers. So now you're at your offsite and you've got direction. Well, using TLC, you can then calibrate every, we call them games, and games is a management system of goals, activities, measures, expectations, and support. You can create games for that quarter before the next offsite that are visual, clear, that everybody knows how to win and get better at. You can form plans for an ethos for each team. So each team's why, each team's purpose fits the bigger purpose of the North Star. It's unique to each team playing each game, but it's aligned to a bigger picture goal, a bigger picture value system that they're a part of, they're directed by. You can look at the individual players required, strategies of who you're going to need to attract, select, develop, retain that make up the team playing the game. And of course, you're going to look at how you're measuring the results, how you're tracking the patterns of data that inform, are you moving towards this direction or not? So a good example of this is you can really create an active, living, strategic plan that's capable of being, agile, but more than that, anti-fragile, because the thinking to direct and to lead the company, it considers all of these perspectives required to make a robust and working plan. That's why it's not a map, it's a compass. It gives you the direction, and the magic that happens with this, the real practical magic, is when you get this leadership team thinking and talking in the same way of what's our game plan, how are we tracking these results, what about this team, the conversations start clicking real fast, and we're able to build really robust strategies that tend to be more effective than the traditional management models, if I could be so bold as to say.
And is there if you had to pick one key lesson from the book, something we can learn like in the next minute or so, do you have something like that you can share, maybe something we can put in practice in our businesses tomorrow?
It depends on the person, but I would suggest this. If there was one thing that would immediately benefit the most people, for leaders to do or to enact, it would be to define and declare what your leadership is about. And this may sound obvious, but it's very underutilized. And there's a chapter in the book called Leadership. And we go through the history of leadership thinking and theory and practice. And, we go all the way back to the Prince and Machiavelli, and we go through James McGregor Burns, and we look at the literature, and we look at the themes and patterns there. The exercise with this is for the leader to actually take stock of what leadership means for them and what people can expect from their leadership, and then to boldly declare this to their organization in a statement that teaches people how to interact and be successful with them. And I would suggest that this is a good activity to work with for a number of reasons. The first is it I can't remember who said it, but they said that the greatest problem with communication is the illusion it has occurred. A lot of we'll have to find out who said that and drop it in the show notes. But a lot of the leaders and executives that I work with in a coaching capacity assume that people know this stuff. They assume that they know who they are and how they operate and what they're like. The moment we get a leader to define and declare, this is what I am about as a leader, this is how to approach me, this is how to get feedback from me, this is what you can expect from me, and this is what I expect from you, and being explicit on those terms, so much of the conflict, noise, confusion drops away, the clarity increases, and the capacity to collaborate, to work together better, improves immediately. So that's certainly for leaders an exercise I'd recommend doing, and you can read all about it in the book that I'm plugging now.
That's great. Thank you very much for sharing that. And let's move on to the quick fire questions because we're approaching our time. Let's see. What's your second favorite business book? And I call it second because I'm assuming yours is your favorite business book.
There's a lot. I will go for, at the moment, I'm going to go for Principles by Ray Dalio. I think that's a brilliant book. There are a lot of great books. There are a lot of terrible books. Principles is a very good book by Ray Dalio.
And what do you wish you knew when you were 20?
I wish I knew how to learn and integrate information and at the rate that I do now, because I would be on a much steeper growth curve for all the right reasons if I knew that. And that's what I'm teaching a lot of younger upcoming managers at the moment, is learning how to learn. It's this idea of meta learning. If I had that at 20, yeah, it'd be interesting.
Great. And for people who want to connect with you or learn more about the book?
If you want to connect with me and learn more about the book, you can reach me on LinkedIn. It's Benny Ausmus. It's BENNYAUSMUS. You can check out our website. It's bigchange.group. And there you will find our Twitter, all our social media, and an upcoming YouTube course and channel that will be given away to the world for free. So stay tuned, folks.
That's great. Looking forward to it. And thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, Costa.